was happening to me, I knew she would understand.
Howdy do. How we doing, everybody?
When did you start confiding in your mom about your issues with Mr. Depp and physical abuse?
Objection, hearsay, compound.
I sustain as a compound.
We're going to do a little chilling today. We're going to watch some videos, hang out, we're going to play a little chess, just kind of keep it chill, get back into the YouTube thing, you know what I'm saying?
At the hands of Mr. Depp.
Gotta get this Discord thing
I was
on.
confiding in her from the very beginning about the abuse, the psychological abuse, the kind of control, the disappearing, the not knowing where he was, then he'd come back and sometimes in the middle of the night, the constant accusations, like that sort of thing. I talked to her about probably from the very beginning. The fact that I was secret, I had to hide. I couldn't tell any of my friends that I was with him for a long time because he told me everyone would blame me for the split with him and his partner. So I had to kind of sneak around and kind of get brought to his house, typically
Bada boom.
in a secretive way. And then he'd come to mine in a secretive way. And it was just all very, so very isolating. And I confided with her at the very beginning on that sort of thing, and then later opened up to her about some of the violence. I did it gently. First I just wanted to have someone to talk to about how scary it was. The rage and the uncontrolled
here we go.
violence, the rage that this man had, and why it was
Objection,
pointed
Your
at
Honor.
me.
Hearsay. May we approach, please?
Oh boy. It's getting spicy. It's getting spicy. Depp's lawyer is not having it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take our 15-minute afternoon break, so please do not talk about the case. We're doing the outside research. Okay, we'll see you soon.
Taking a little recess. Taking a little break. This has been going on for 4 hours today. Go back to some of this earlier testimony.
I didn't ask you about treatment. I asked you.
Oh, here we go.
That is correct.
All right.
When you're talking about intimate partner violence, you have to pay attention to gendered stereotypes. And during your testimony, you in fact paid attention to gendered stereotypes, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you said we were going to have to pay attention to gendered stereotypes, and then you testified at where you
Looking on my own video here.
men and women. You paid attention to those stereotypes during the course of your testimony, correct?
What I was saying was you have to pay attention to gendered stereotypes when you're conducting these evaluations. You can't assume all the time that the male is the perpetrator and the female is the victim. You have to go into the evaluation understanding that the male also could be the victim of intimate partner violence.
True, very true.
In fact, you're aware that there are large-scale studies that do say that IPV towards males does exist.
Hello, and
God damn it. I need to have this every time I go to my channel homepage, it starts playing a video. I gotta stop that. It's annoying to me.
Of intimate partner violence yesterday.
I'm just trying to find this
you
live
used the
stream.
pronouns she or her, didn't you?
I was using the she and her pronouns in this
Oh, fuck.
case because my determination was, as I stated, that Ms. Heard was the victim of intimate partner violence. That is why I was using the she, her pronouns.
You, in fact, said women gets into the relationship for all the right reasons. That's what you said. Woman gets into the relationship for all the right reasons.
Suppose I should make my stream public.
For her,
That would help.
For victim to extricate herself. You go on to say that she can and she should. Over and over, you use she, right?
I believe in this case I did because I was referencing this case where I found Ms. Heard to be the victim of intimate partner violence. It doesn't mean that men don't get into the relationships for all the right reasons too. I believe they do.
Sounds fair. Sounds fair.
Nearly every time you referenced the perpetrator of IPV, you used he or him, didn't you?
And it goes back to the same reasoning as I'm describing my understanding and my evaluation in this matter. Of course, men can be perpetrators and victims of intimate partner violence. That's well established in the research, and that's well established in my clinical practice as well.
Isn't the reason that you used the pronouns that you did that you almost always testify on behalf of a woman?
That's not correct.
You don't even remember the last time you testified on behalf of a man.
Well, I don't testify on behalf of someone. I testify as to the results of my evaluation. I frequently treat and assess male victims of childhood sexual abuse who are coming into treatment for abuse by their Boy Scout leader, by their coach, by their teacher.
You know, I get that the lawyers have to do this, you know, like it's kind of their way of trying to pin you into a corner or whatever, make their case. But some of the crap they say is just ridiculous.
I asked you about testimony.
Good day, Lawrence. How we doing, buddy?
About your
Welcome.
practice between treatment and testimony. I'm not asking about treatment. When's the last time you testified on
Turn this
behalf
up
of
a
a
bit.
man?
I testified recently in a deposition on behalf of a man who was traumatized because he was wrongly convicted.
Yeah,
At the
that's a
time
big
of
thing.
your deposition
That shit happens all the
6
time.
weeks ago, you couldn't remember a single time you had testified on behalf of a man.
I testified in my deposition that I testified.
I think the point the
in
lawyer's trying to
case
make
of a
is
man who
you
was
never
wrongly convicted
testified
about 20 years and
that a
suffered
man's been a
physical and
victim
sexual
before,
violence
therefore how
in
could it be
prison,
true
and
or something?
I detailed
I
the
don't know.
traumatic effects of that happened on that gentleman.
All right, why don't we take a look at your deposition?
Sure.
All
I
right.
feel like I fucked
Thank you.
something.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Transcript of the deposition that you gave March 28th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to
I mean, I'm up material
page
here.
77.
We're going to be playing a little chess while we're watching this, guys. Hope that's okay. We're in an earlier part of the live stream right now. They're taking a break currently. So I'm just watching some of the earlier stuff I didn't see. Have you guys been following this trial quite a bit, or?
Let's look at
I haven't really followed it much.
page 70, line 8. So you can't recall a single instance where you were hired by the attorney representing the male in an IPV matter, correct?
In an IPV matter, not in a trauma matter or a child sexual abuse matter.
Okay, so that's the distinction. You don't have any recollection of ever testifying on behalf of a male in an IPV matter.
As I stated yesterday, the very first case that I testified in was in a same-sex intimate partner violence where the man was the victim of another man. I routinely treat and assess same-sex couples where then the female can be the perpetrator of another female, and the male can be the perpetrator or a victim of his partner.
So let me get this. You testified in a case where one male is alleged to have engaged in
as loud
IPV
as it
against
goes,
another
too.
male.
Correct.
All right. Okay. But that's the only one you remember. That's the only one you remember.
No, I've done this frequently. As you well know, most cases don't go to trial. I've worked on hundreds and hundreds of cases. You've limited to testimony. Many cases don't come to trial, but I've issued reports and worked on many cases of same-sex intimate partner violence where men are the victims.
But I did ask you about testimony, and I limited the question to
This
testimony.
lady's getting frustrated.
And the only testimony that you remember is the same-sex couple, right?
There were multiple same-sex couples, I believe, that I testified
That you
in.
testified in court at trial.
I believe so, yes.
All right, but you didn't remember that in in March.
I did remember that in March.
Okay. You're a professional witness, correct?
That's not correct.
No? You make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year testifying in court.
Oh, he's trying to smear her.
Not testifying in court, I conduct thorough, comprehensive psychological evaluations of individuals who are involved in a court
Ma'am,
case.
you've been
The
paid for
majority of
doing a
those
job.
cases
Is that
never show
correct?
up in a courtroom. And half
Yes,
of
sir.
my practice and half of my income is about my clinical work with people who are coming to me for therapy.
I didn't ask you about the other half of your income. I'm asking you whether you made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year testifying as an expert witness in court.
As you're phrasing that question, that's not correct. That would be the amount of income that I generate from my forensic practice. I testify perhaps maybe once or twice a year. Most of the work is done behind the scenes in evaluating individuals and issuing reports.
But you'll agree with me that a big part of that practice is providing expert witness testimony.
That's not correct.
No? That's not a
She's
big
not
part of your
having it,
practice.
dude.
If I testify twice a year, that's not a big part of my practice. All the other time is doing the work for the cases and evaluating the individuals and issuing reports.
This fucking lady. She's not having this. She's not having any of what this lawyer has to say. So funny.
All right. What percentage of work do you devote to forensic psychology?
As I stated yesterday, I say half and half clinical, half forensic, but I also have a substantial amount of time that I use in the professional activities and serving on professional boards.
So what portion of your practice do you provide expert witness services?
I think you're using the expert witness services synonymous with the forensic psychology part of the practice. So the forensic psychology practice, what I do here today is one part of it, and it's a smaller part as opposed to all of the evaluations and individuals that I'm assessing.
Your practice is successful enough that you maintain your offices on Madison Avenue in New York, correctly?
Correct. I've had that office since 2005.
Right.
Looks like
And
Johnny's
you're
drinking a
sufficiently
piss.
successful at your,
Done it?
Forensic work that you're able to perform unpaid work at a hospital, correct?
Correct, and I also do pro bono work as well.
There. In fact, you actually instruct others on the use of expert testimony
Pro
in court
bono.
cases, correct?
Where does that word come from?
On the use and understanding trauma and violence abuse in the courtroom and
bono.
how to, for advocates and people who
Pro
could not
bono.
have this level of training or experience, how
Latin.
to come
Go
into
figure.
the courtroom and talk about very difficult issues of domestic violence. Yes.
All right. Can we pull up PX 1241? Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it looks like the front page of a PowerPoint presentation
And it's a PowerPoint presentation given by whom?
by myself and Mary Ann Dutton, who is a very well-known and respected researcher and clinician in the area of domestic violence.
And what's the topic of the PowerPoint that you're giving?
Expert witness testimony in cases involving domestic violence.
Okay. And who did you give this presentation to?
That was to the National Clearinghouse for the Defense of Battered Women. That is an organization that provides legal services to women who have assaulted or killed their partners in self-defense, and mostly people who these individuals, the women who they've seen in treatment are through shelter-based programs or through advocates, and those are individuals who don't really know how to come into the courtroom and talk, and that's what this presentation and training was for.
I'm going to move PX 1241 into evidence.
Any objection? All right, 1241 in evidence. Do you want it published or?
Yes, let's publish it to the jury. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we pull up?
This whole
PX
trial has been such like a clusterfuck, I swear. Like between all the memes and all the publicity it's gotten.
Do you
Man.
recognize this document?
Yes, this also looks like a
I have a feeling
PowerPoint
that this is going to be
presentation
very
that I
good
gave.
for Johnny Depp. No matter what
is the
happens
name
in
of
this case,
PowerPoint presentation?
I have a feeling
This is
he's going
called
to
the
be
use
getting
of
more roles now, and
psychological
I am
experts in
hard
cases
pressed
of
to believe
domestic
if Amber's going to
violence.
be
It
doing
was
very well
presented
after
to the
this.
Kings County
Just
Bar
from the
Association, which is in Brooklyn. And what this presentation
public
talked about
consensus, it
was
seems
some
like.
of the things that I talked to you all about yesterday, the myths and misconceptions.
Seems like both of them are a little
in
nutty
intimate partner
in their own
violence,
right
when women
in their
use
relationship.
force, what happens
But-
if they drop protective orders, how they present in court, and that's what this presentation was to attorneys at the Bar Association.
I do here.
Okay, but this is another presentation that you gave as to the use of psychological experts, and you gave it to a bar association.
Right, they were prosecutors and defense attorneys in attendance at that Bar Association.
At your deposition, you testified that you were
Objection, that chess move will get you in trouble. I believe it, dude. I'm terrible at chess.
I did not testify to that.
You did not?
It's so funny.
That's an error in the transcript.
Oh, that's not right.
That's correct.
So, and you corrected the transcript?
We did not do an errata in the transcript at this point.
So you knew there was an error in the transcript, but you didn't fix it?
There were several errors in the transcript.
But you didn't fix any of them?
There was no time to fix them, that's correct.
All right. So you're not being paid $100 an hour. How much are you getting paid?
I'm being paid $500 an hour.
$500 an hour. And that's what, and that's the bill you sent for your deposition, right?
God
$500
damn.
Correct.
500 an hour? 500 an hour? Fuck. What kind of job?
You submitted
Man,
a
I should have been a
number
lawyer.
of
God damn.
disclosures in this case. You have not formed an opinion as to whether Mr. Depp committed intimate partner violence against Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct. I formed the opinion that Ms. Heard's report of the intimate partner violence is consistent with what we know in the literature about intimate partner violence.
You have a limited role here comparing individual data to group data and then just determining whether it's consistent, correct?
I wouldn't say it's a limited role, but that's generally correct.
You wouldn't use the word limited role?
A limited role in terms of how we go about a forensic evaluation,
you
not
know
a
whether-
limited role in this case.
Do you
I don't know
remember
what to do in
whether
this
you used
situation.
limited role in your deposition?
I don't. If you have it in front of me, you probably think I did, but sure.
And you have no independent knowledge of the facts underlying the alleged abuse, correct?
I have the knowledge of the plethora of documents that I've reviewed in this case.
No, I'm asking you your
That's a good point,
independent
having said that.
firsthand knowledge. You have none of that, right?
I was thinking about that
You mean
earlier
whether
too,
I
how
was there?
like
Yeah,
Depp
you weren't there.
like let's
course
say
not. Okay.
you know, maybe it's not even as bad as this, like in a hypothetical situation.
And you're not testifying.
So many people like,
to the
hate Amber
veracity,
Heard
the
now that no matter how
truthfulness
nice she
of
is,
any of the
like she
allegations.
can't do anything. If she's
Correct.
vindictive
I'm
and mean,
testifying
she looks
to the consistency
like
of
the normal
data
person we all make her
points
out to
of
be,
all the
right?
different
That everybody's saying
documents,
she is.
including the
And if she's super
psychological
nice, then
testing
she
and
just
the
looks
clinical
two-faced and she
evaluation
looks
that I
like she's trying to
conducted of
save
Ms. Heard
face
and how that comports
with the whole
the
situation,
therapy
which just
records
goes
and all
like
the other
furthers the
documents and
point
photos
that
and texts that I reviewed.
I mean, she's screwed either way. I
have
feel
no
like, at least in the
personal
public
knowledge
eye.
of
I don't know
any
what's
of
going to
you.
happen in court here, and it's again, it's not a criminal
Correct,
case; it's a
personally.
civil
Correct.
case about defamation. So,
And all you know
At the end of the
is
day,
what
it's
Ms.
just
Heard
like-
self-reported to you and us
is Depp going to get
That's
money
not
or
correct.
not? But,
because you did collateral interviews.
yeah, it's
And I reviewed medical records.
he's done very well in
and I
court here.
reviewed
It's kind of
other
been a
witness
crazy court
statements of
case. Like
what
I
they
watched the
witnessed
whole
and what they saw.
Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Again, it's a lot different of a
And all
court
of
case because
those
that's a criminal case,
statements
but
that you reviewed.
like just
those
the
were
demeanor and everything that was
statements
going
that
on
started
in the
with
two.
Ms. Heard,
It's just so much
correct?
different. It's so funny.
Not necessarily.
Well, the medical records did,
What
didn't
did
they?
you hear?
Well, the medical records, if she's self-reporting what happened to her, sure. I mean, that's what we do when we go to a physician. We say, I have a headache. We're self-reporting our difficulties.
Everything Ms. Heard reported directly to you was after she was sued by Mr. Depp in this case, correct?
Correct.
I don't want to take that. Oh, I can't.
And you didn't
take it.
meet Ms. Heard until, what, September 2019?
That was the first evaluation appointment, correct.
How'd you get engaged?
Engaged?
How'd you get hired to
Oh.
do this work?
I was contacted by
I
the
thought he
legal
meant like
team.
Or were you
engaged to like
interviewed by
marriage.
her legal team as
She was
to
like, "What the
whether
fuck you
you
talking
wanted to
about, bro?
testify
How did I
here?"
get engaged?"
I was not.
You were not interviewed.
I was not.
You were contacted.
Correct.
Had you
I
worked
don't like
with that
this
legal team
knight
before?
sitting here.
I
It's
had.
bugging me.
Yeah. So they already knew who you were, right?
Correct.
Right. And at any time that you were working with Ms. Hurd or assessing Ms. Hurd, she could have chose to fire you, correct?
I suppose her legal team could have chose to fire her. I was not her. She is not my client. The legal team is the one who hires me. I am responsible to the legal team, not Ms. Hurd.
And the legal team that hired you already knew who you were because you
The
worked
Danny
together
Masterson rape
previously.
trial? I don't know anything about
they knew
that
of my
actually.
expertise in this area.
He
of
called
intimate
himself
partner
DJ
violence and
Donkey
traumatic
Punch.
stress,
The
which is why
fuck?
they contacted me to work on this matter.
That just reminds me of
Several
the
times
Rittenhouse
yesterday,
trial
you
when they're
used
like,
language
so you have an
about
Instagram account.
assessing
What's the name
Ms.
again? And he's
Hurd's
like,
relationship
4 doors, more whores.
with Mr. Depp.
He has to say it in
Remember
court.
talking about
It's
that?
so funny.
You can't assess a relationship without talking to both parties, can you?
What do I want to do here, man? What do I want to do?
You certainly can get a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
fine, but I don't like
information
this.
from one party, absolutely.
But
And
you're gonna-
especially when it's buttressed by other documents, including 4 years of
attack this
therapy
being
records and
pawn.
couples therapy records. You can get a lot of information based on those
Or not.
documents and that contemporaneous reports of the relationship.
Respectfully, I didn't ask whether you get a lot of information. I asked whether you can assess a relationship without talking to both parties.
Ooh, I don't like that.
I believe you can. There are certainly limitations inherent in that, but you certainly can.
You talked to Ms. Hurd for, what, approximately 30 hours, right?
Correct.
How long have you spent with Mr. Depp?
I did not spend any time with Mr. Depp. It was my understanding that he did not sit for a psychological evaluation.
Right. In fact, you never met Mr. Depp, have you?
I have not.
But you purport to be able to assess the relationship between Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
But
Yeah,
I
that's-
also read
you see
Mr.
that a lot
Depp's
with the
transcripts
attorneys.
of his testimony. I watched his deposition testimony.
He's trying to, like, get
I
under her
reviewed his
skin, trying
medical
to
records. I
ask
reviewed
stuff
his
that
text
she knows
messages. So it's not
he knows the
necessarily
answer to,
totally
right?
blind. I did have information.
But that's like a typical,
although I'm
like,
not
very
making a conclusion about Mr.
normal
Depp
tactic.
himself.
She's got to
Is
be
the
aware of
standard
that.
now
She's
not
done this
necessarily
before. She's
totally
not new to
blind?
trials by any stretch of the imagination.
I'm
That's
not
how
sure.
you assess the relationship?
I'd be hard-pressed to
If
see her
not
get
necessarily
hostile.
Totally blind,
She's making
I can
$500
assess
an
it.
hour.
No, we assess as clinical psychologists relationships all the time. That's what we're trained to do. Certainly
hope, I
someone
guess,
who's
you know,
been
you'd hope
trained
she'd
in
keep her
intimate
cool.
partner violence to understand and look for the dynamics that happen
a
in
dog
that
shit position. I don't
relationship.
like this
And
position.
then
My
when we have
knight is stuck.
external data that supports what the individual is telling us, way before this legal case even came on the scene, that becomes very strong.
No, what am I
data
doing? Oh my
to
gosh, I didn't
support
see that.
conclusion.
Let's talk
Fucking
about
idiot.
some of that data,
Sure,
All right.
all right?
Better.
You chose to conduct some collateral interviews,
correct,
right? And you interviewed Dr. Bonnie Jacobs.
correct.
And you looked at her notes,
What the fuck
Correct.
am I doing? I'm messing this up
and
really
you
bad.
know that Miss Jacobs, Dr.
Oh,
Jacobs,
shit. I'll lose this.
doesn't know anything about the version of what happened in Australia until Miss Hurd had
Oh,
already
I
been
lost
sued,
this game so
correct?
hard.
I believe she was not in treatment with Dr. Jacobs at the time the Australia incident occurred, so that would be correct. She did reach out to Dr. Connell Cohen about
Make it a
Australia,
draw.
who she was treating with at that time contemporaneously.
All right, I'll ask you about Dr. Cohen. We'll get there. All right. So, you know that Miss Hurd stopped seeing Dr. Jacobs in August 2014.
That's correct.
And she didn't go back until after she got sued, right?
I believe that's the date. I'd have to look to make sure, but I believe that you're correct.
Yeah, this is
And you
just
said
lost.
you reviewed you interviewed Dr. Cohen.
That's correct.
And you also reviewed his deposition testimony.
That's correct.
And you know that he testified that when he was treating
Better
the
Call
patient,
Saul moment where
he
the
assumes
attorney
the
reveals a
patient is
video of
telling
his
the
expert
truth,
committing
correct?
domestic violence herself.
I believe he said something to
Dude,
that
that's
effect in his
again. I'm going to bring up the Rittenhouse trial because that's really the only trial I
If he
watched.
has
Like I
no
watched
reason
every
to
minute of it.
believe otherwise. If there's
That
no
happened
other
quite a
data
bit with the
to believe
prosecution.
otherwise, that
Like
your patient's
the
not
prosecution's
being
own witness
totally honest with you,
was like,
then
"Yeah,
believe what
I
they're
only
saying.
shot, or I only got
No
shot
other
when I pointed the
data
gun
to
at his
believe
face." You know, or,
otherwise,
you know,
but
their
the
own
sole
witnesses just
thing that's
destroyed their own
happening is
case.
Miss Hurd is talking to Mr. Cohen, or Dr. Cohen.
I wouldn't say she's talking to him. She's going to
And
him
you'd
for
think,
therapy.
too, I
and
mean, this
he's
is a
using
super
his
high-profile
clinical
case, right?
psychological
Even if it's just a
expertise
civil
to
case, it's
understand
like,
the connection
there's a
between
lot
her
of money in
symptoms
this
and what
in this
she's
case.
reporting
There's a
what's
lot of
going
money
on in her
involved.
life.
All right.
You think these would be the best of the best, right?
But you
Lawyers?
understand that he testified that he assumes the patient is telling the truth.
Again, I understand that statement in his testimony. I have a lot more rich information of having spoken to him for 2 hours and reviewing his clinical notes.
He testified he was making a leap of faith with respect to that, right? With respect to the truthfulness.
I'm going to be honest, I'm a little
Again, that
lost
was
in this
not my
part now.
understanding of speaking with him and reviewing his notes. I'm aware he
I
testified
think this
something to that
attorney's
effect.
just, the whole point of this is just trying to discredit this
And you
witness at this
testified
point.
yesterday that Dr.
Because
Cohen
she
never
said some stuff
diagnosed
about
Ms. Heard with any
Amber Heard
personality
that makes her
disorder.
look
Do you
bad
remember that?
Yes.
after her evaluation, and
Dr. Cohen's deposition
The lawyer's
testimony
just trying
reflects
to
the fact that he
discredit
doesn't make
her as a-
diagnoses, correct?
her statement.
Correct,
on it.
and I asked him specifically, did he have any indications that even if he doesn't, as his practice, use them, does she meet criteria for a personality disorder? And he told me she did not.
All right, so you asked him specifically with respect to a topic that you haven't disclosed
Oh, I'm
in
done.
your
What am I doing?
expert report, and then he made a conclusion that's reflected in no document.
It's reflected
Getting
in
bamboozled
my
by
notes,
this.
it's reflected in his notes about what he's
Let's play the
treating.
London
He's treating the
Duke.
symptoms. He's not focusing on the diagnosis, but he is treating the symptoms.
You talked about Dr. Cohen's concern for Ms. Heard's safety.
Correct.
He wasn't talking about her physical safety, was he?
Yes, he was.
No, he was talking about her emotional safety. Wasn't that what he was talking about?
He was concerned for both.
Okay. Did Dr. Cohen testify that he never had the feeling that Johnny intended to hurt Ms. Heard?
I believe he said that. I mean, he talked about Mr. Depp being very poorly controlled, and that's what made him, Dr. Cohen, concerned, because in those moments when he was not controlled, that he could accidentally seriously hurt Ms. Heard.
Wow, I'm
Let's
dumb.
do this again. Ms. Heard told Dr. Cohen that
I'm
Mr.
dumb.
Depp
What am I doing? I'm
was
just throwing this
poorly
game.
controlled, correct?
That's not correct.
Okay. He determined that from the treatment he was providing Ms. Heard.
And he also had a couple session with Mr. Depp, and he also had correspondence with Dr. Kipper. So he had other information as to Mr. Depp's functioning.
All right, you talked about Dr. Banks.
Correct.
Dr. Banks was doing.
All right, let's go back
relationship
to
consulting, right?
current
Consultation
times
relations.
here. Let's see Amber Heard's on the stand, I think. Oops. How do I just go like 15 seconds, 5 seconds? Oh, look, you can see the clock go 5 seconds at a time. That's so awesome. Look at doot, 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 doot. I love it. Look, I can just make the clock go. Look at it. Go forward, go backwards. All right, let's get to where Amber's at. I want to say that suit looks kind of lesbian on her, no?
Your next question.
2013, Your Honor. Amber, I'm going to take you up to March of 2013. Can you describe your relationship with Mr. Depp during that month? And we'll start there.
I remember it was after a period of some peace.
I feel like she's been coached so hard by her lawyers.
And
the acting's
sobriety.
coming on
Johnny
so
was
hard.
sober, drinking Beck's, and
know her, but it seems
my
like she's really trying to-
dad, who was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction at the time, had fallen off the wagon, and I remember he said, "Why don't we I want to send a picture to your dad of support." Because my sister was upset with my dad. And so
Isn't it funny how we use falling off the wagon as a
he
term for like
poured a
starting
shot,
drinking again?
and
Goes back to the
and-
time where you'd be
and
like shit
kind of
faced and falling off your horse wagon.
said, "Let's take a
Like,
picture."
oh, I fell off the wagon.
I don't drink spirits, but I
200 years
I
later, we're
know
still saying it.
that, I kind of held up in that picture.
Whatever it
It's
is.
kind of eerie because I just think it's bizarre. He had broken this long period of sobriety that I thought was going to be the end of him drinking forever. Sounds foolish now, but I, held up this kind of glass with him, and we sent the picture to my dad because, I didn't know what else to do. And I remember thinking it was weird that he was drinking. And then the month got really crazy from that point on. It was a bit of a revolving door of accusations. He was accusing me of having affairs with, frankly, just one person. I had an acquaintance with somebody, and he was accusing me of being with them, and then he was accusing me of being with my friend, the one I had seen in Spain. I'm, in these kind of arguments, nothing
going
I
to Spain
do
to see
is
some dude,
working.
I'd be like,
Walking out of the room is me leaving him, walking away from me. Hey, where are you going? I'm talking to you. That it went from that to pulling me in by my arm, still shouting about the accusations. I'm trying to diffuse the situation by trying to tell him I'm not sleeping with this person and I'm not sleeping with that person. And it was kind of, as soon as it seemed as though I had convinced him of one, there was somebody else he was sure I was sleeping with. And it was a revolving door at that time. A painting I had hanging on the wall, done by my ex, who's an artist. That was, one day he was convinced that was proof I was sleeping with her, or having an affair with her. I didn't really love him, and all the while,
Okay,
I'm
with you dressing
madly
like
in love
that,
with
I ain't doubting it,
him
lady.
and
Come
trying to
on now.
convince him. So
You have a
March
painting in your house. Dude,
started with
imagine,
this picture of
Sorry, I
him.
gotta pause this. Imagine Johnny Depp, like, it's a painting in his own house, in your house, whatever it is, and that your ex did it. He's gotta look at that shit every day. Fuck that. Fuck that. I don't care if he's Van Gogh. If you fucked Van Gogh, we ain't having any Van Goghs in our house. You kidding me? Come on now. That's insane.
Doing a shot, and he's kind of saying, "Let's send it to your dad to show support." And what I remember of March is just like an almost it's almost like it was a never-ending fight. It was just, there were breaks in it. What kept me in it is because I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, the sobriety
Yeah, I was gonna-
shoe, if you will. I kept waiting for him to get to the point where it's not supportable or anymore, and he's done with it and he's ready to get clean and sober again, because there commences a period of like pure joy. And it was one fight after the other. March.
So let me start with the painting incident. Please tell the jury what happened on that particular incident with the painting.
As I mentioned, the painting, which had been hanging there for months, one day he kind of stayed up doing cocaine, just drinking, doing cocaine, music, which is not in and of itself that weird in my relationship with Johnny at this point. Like, he stays up and keeps weird hours and smokes and stuff. But he was drinking
Just subtly
brown
throwing that
liquor
shit in there.
and doing a lot of cocaine, and it was like, it became clear to me in that argument, if you will, that he wasn't making
She's
sense.
trying to, like, so
He had
hard.
effectively just
okay. I haven't watched this case at all. I've just heard about it and kept up with it from other people, but just her like tone of voice makes it sound like she's trying to be like the good girl. She's trying to put herself above everybody, and she's the the voice of truth in all of this. That's like, I don't know, that's just the demeanor and the vibe I'm getting from her. Is just and I've watched clips of Johnny and her and all this other stuff, and it just seems like she's really trying to like put out like, I'm the good girl here. I'm the I have no idea what's going on. I don't know how to explain it.
it seemed like
she's
a
giving me a weird
turn,
vibe. I don't like
and
it.
had decided that the painting was an offense that he could not forgive me for. It meant I was having an affair with my ex-partner, whom I had already split. With whom I had already split, and it made no sense to me. So I'm trying
I
to
would not
kind
want
of
that painted
quell the
in my place
accusations
either.
by
I
saying,
don't blame him for that.
you know, it's been there,
For being
and
upset.
what are you
I'm
talking
surprised
about?
he's there
And
in
it's
the
like
first place.
that doesn't mean anything. And you know, he was demanding I take it down. He eventually takes it down and tries to burn it, but it was unsuccessful. Luckily, because he was not. He wasn't. With one of those normal, what do you call them, Bic lighters, he wasn't very successful at doing it while drinking, to the extent he was. But I remember it was this kind of ridiculous fight. Like, didn't feel like it needed to be an argument, but it seemed like nothing I could do, nothing I could say. I tried leaving. I left the room. I left the house. I eventually came back. It was like a whole night, an evening, a night, and then a morning of this. So this morning in particular, I think it was the 22nd of March. There were several incidents in March, though. But in this particular one, he had something to go to. He was filming with Keith Richards and
I'm surprised Johnny doesn't have a torch.
Tom Waits.
Well, let me, before you go into that part, let's pull up Defendant's Exhibit 161, which is already admitted into evidence, I believe, Your Honor.
Yes, 161 with redactions.
Thank you. And I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit 161. And the date on this is 3/12/2013, and it's a text exchange between you and Mr. Depp. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And the first one is from you to Mr. Depp. Just thought you should know there exists a book. Is that to you? Is it to Mr. Depp from you, or it's vice versa? Isn't it?
It's Johnny texting me.
Just thought you should know there exists a book titled Disco Bloodbath. And then you say, we need that book. And you say, is this about last Friday night by any chance? And he says, how can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? And I'm not going to repeat the rest of it. Could you tell the jury what happened on that Friday night?
There were, like I said, there was a few different incidents in March. I believe this one happened in the Eastern Columbia building, which are one of Johnny's penthouses. They're in downtown, so a different part of Los Angeles. And we'd sometimes go there. I remember he was accusing me again of sleeping with this artist, this musician who I'd never slept with. I was denying it. I barely knew the person. And then he was accusing me of sleeping with my friend in Spain. And I remember nothing I could do. He
most people aren't
called
buying
this person
survival
on the
lighters.
phone and
That's probably
screamed
why.
at-
Probably a cool idea. It's
screamed
just
at him.
most people aren't thinking
He
about
didn't
their
speak
survival.
English, so he was really confused as to what he was being yelled at by Johnny. But I remember those were the accusations. That was the fight. But it was one to the next accusation. And I remember I was kind of doing that juggling act. I was in one of these fights, I believe it's this one, in his downtown ECB, we call it, loft. And we're in the kitchen living room area, and he backhands me. And,
What?
It was, he wears a lot of rings. I remember kind of just feeling like my lip went into my teeth. And it got a little blood on the wall. Just that simple, a little bit of blood on the wall. As hard as it is,
I want to be honest. My mama smacked me once with her fucking ring on her hand.
as hard as it is to explain
That fucking
this,
hurt. But I deserved it.
I was so caught up in the relationship and also very occupied in defending what I only could assume he believed, these accusations, that, I didn't internalize, like, I didn't make that big of a deal of it. I kind of pride myself on being tough, and, I don't make a big deal out of, smaller injuries. And I know that sounds horrible and hard maybe to understand, but
I just fucked that up.
my best way to cope with it is I kind of, minimize it, make sure no one, make sure he knows that I'm tough and can't knock me down, and I make a joke of it, clearly. Make light.
I'm going to, Michelle, if you can take this one down and bring up 170A. Did there come a time in March, Amber, where you sent a picture to your mom?
Yes, this is sometime in March 2013. I sent it to her because I'd been texting about some of the craziness, and I
Objection,
I
hearsay.
still get these weird ass vibes from
I'll
her that
sustain
she's
into what
just
she may have texted. All right,
acting.
next question.
She's acting out of her ass. That's the vibe I get. I don't know.
Without saying
It
what
just
you
does not
said
seem
in the
genuine
text,
to me at all.
explain why you were sending it to
Like
your mom.
deliberate pauses.
I
It just
was
seems like
reaching
it's
out.
out of a movie or a
was very
TV
lonely
series.
in what I was living in,
And again, I don't know enough about
wanted
the evidence,
advice,
whether or
help.
not this is true or
And
not.
so
But
I
it's
just
just
wanted to
the
talk to
it's what
somebody
vibe I'm getting off her. I
and
don't like it.
figure out how I could make this stop.
And is this a picture that you took of yourself in March of 2013?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 170A.
Any
What's
objection?
up, Bum?
No
How
objection.
you doing,
All
buddy?
right,
Bub?
170A in
Come on,
evidence.
man.
You can publish the picture.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Minimizing her
And how did you
resting bitch
sustain
face.
that bruise, Amber?
That's her?
I had thrown
Is it just me, or is that not?
Johnny
look
slapped
like her?
me. I walked away from him, and that made it worse. We got into like
I mean, I believe it's
shouting
her.
match.
I mean, it's in court, obviously. I mean, it's her, right?
And he kind of did this thing with his body where I could tell he was going to hit me again. I picked up I remember it kind of like a little pot, not a pot, but like a vase. And I remember
Again,
I got it way
let's say what she's
from
saying
him
is
enough
true. I mean,
as he
that's-
reels back.
I don't know if it is or
threw
not.
it
I don't
in
know
his
enough about this
direction
case, but
and actually
her
managed to
voice
get away
and her like
before he got
deliberate pauses and her
before he got
demeanor
me.
and her tone and everything.
he grabbed me
about
by the
how she's
arm,
speaking,
and he kind of just held me
it's
on the
just bugging
floor,
shit out of me.
screaming at
Seems
me.
It seems like she's acting. That's all. It is. Like seems very.
I don't know how many times he hit me
Played
in
up.
the face, but I remember being on the floor of my apartment.
Feels like she's been very coached, and this is like
And I'm
an
just-
audition.
I remember thinking,
That's the vibe I'm getting. And it's funny because it's
How
like
could
they're
this
both
happen to
actors,
me
and I'd
again?
argue that Johnny's probably a way better actor, right? I mean,
Can you
come on
bring
now.
up 170?
So I'm wondering if, like, in his head, he's probably thinking, I'm like, oh, she's such a shit actor. She's so shit. She's pausing way too long. He's like subtly critiquing her case and her acting skills.
Michelle, and if we can, and just to
yes,
start,
you would
it's
never get the
3/23,
pod, yeah. You'd never get the pod
2013, and if we can scroll up.
I know,
This
it
is
did
a
look like
text
that. It was kinda
message
weird.
exchange with your mom, correct?
I believe it.
yes, it is.
Okay, let's go, scroll down and then.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to
Yeah, he's
hearsay.
just like doodling on his
Let's
piece of
wait till
paper,
we
like.
get to the
He's
spot.
got these 4-pack of crayons on his desk. He's like coloring
All
in
right,
shit.
and is this the picture that you sent to your
my
mom
God.
on 3/23, 2013?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of 170, just that
Punch the
that
chair.
picture that's on
funny.
the text.
With
Along
no words.
What's weird is
Well,
too,
it
like,
says from 2
and I'm
weeks
not
ago.
like trying to say like, oh,
No,
this
I'll sustain the
makes it
objection.
okay if she did get hit, but like some people bruise way
If we
easier than
redact
others.
the from 2
like
weeks
you
ago,
could
can
a
we
guy could
admit it
hit
then?
me as hard
And
as
then
he
just
wants in the
have
arm,
the
and I'm not going to
showing
bruise.
that
I
she
don't
sent it to
ever
her mom.
bruise.
Maybe
Like, I have to have
picture.
like internal bleeding to bruise. But then I know like some other people who like you flick them on the arm and they get a bruise from it, right? So a bruise doesn't really say much, in my opinion, to like what actually happened. You know, like you could have been like, dancing and accidentally like tapped her arm and she got a bruise from it. I don't know. I'm just saying, bruises are weird, And this whole case isn't about like a trial about like did Johnny abuse her or not. Really, it's about did she defame Johnny? Like did she lie and cost him a fuck ton of money? And that's why it's a defamation case, right? So.
All right, 170 will be in evidence with redactions.
Notice send the principal's office or the nurse. Probably the nurse. It's year 8.
And may we publish to the jury, please?
All right.
I
And
gotta get
that's
some
the
more
picture
coffee.
you sent to your mom
Yes, it is.
on March 23rd, 2013.
Yes, it was from a previous fight,
Okay.
the bruise.
All right. Now, did you have any other altercations in March 2013 with Mr. Depp?
Yes, we had a couple of these fights in Orange that were around this time, one of which I started to tell you about the painting.
And I know I've interrupted you now twice on that, but I realize the jury doesn't. Can you tell them what you mean by orange, at Orange?
Sorry, Orange was my apartment that I kept in Los Angeles at the time.
And it was an apartment. What type of an apartment?
I rented the top of a duplex. So it was a house with the landlord living on the bottom floor. I rented the top floor.
Okay. Thank you. Now, please continue with the painting. I'm sorry. It seemed like nothing I could say to Johnny would convince him. He wanted me to remove the painting. And he wanted me to admit to this affair that I wasn't having. And I didn't want to admit to it because it's not true. So I held out, and he just drank more and did more cocaine. And I woke up the next morning, I think it was on the 22nd or the 23rd. I woke up in the morning and the breakfast table was like cocaine and booze. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to talk our situation down. I wasn't gonna be able to talk him out of it. And he was just so convinced that I was fighting with him or at the reason that he wouldn't leave the house, and he had something to go film that was important, and there were important people waiting for him. And I remember people were reaching out, his assistants, his manager sister, everyone was wondering where he was. And I kept feeling embarrassed and unable to move this person out of my house. I couldn't calm him down. I couldn't change. He was just so intent on me admitting
She isn't dead
the
after chopping
details
his
of this
finger off.
affair that I wasn't having. And me pointing out that the
I mean, she
cocaine
didn't really
wasn't
chop
making
his
his
finger off.
situation
She
any
threw a
better
bottle
made
at
me
him
the
and
bad cop.
It slightly.
Then I'm the
his
nag.
finger off.
So eventually I called my sister. He had a kind of a buddy-buddy relationship with her at the time. And at the time, she occasionally did cocaine. I didn't, but she did. So I was like, hey, come take over. Maybe you can buddy him and talk him into leaving the house, just getting out of the house. And she did. I remember his assistants trying to get him out. Like eventually in the evening, I think early evening, he finally agrees to leave, but I can't tell our relationship status. I can't tell if he still is convinced of these things
Yeah, I
or
guess
if he's
close
just going to
enough.
sleep it off and it's going to go back to normal sobriety, sorry kind of phase. And He was still upset, but like seemingly calming down. So I agreed to go with him. He wanted me to go to the shoot. I had plans, so I kind of reluctantly agreed, but didn't want to set anything off. I didn't want to engage anymore. I didn't want to do anything that could be perceived as antagonizing him or engaging more. So I went with him. We grabbed the dogs. We get in the car. We're on the way there. We're headed up. Sweetser is the street. It's a major street that leads up to Johnny's houses. He effectively owns the end of the street. It's like a cul-de-sac. So we're nowhere near his home, but we were driving up this street, and he has the window down. He's smoking. It wasn't all the way down, but he's constantly smoking. And at some point, he starts howling out of the window, and then grabs two small dogs. Well, one was Johnny's dog, and one was my dog. But he grabs, if I remember correctly, Boo, his dog, slightly chunkier teacup Yorkie, and he grabs this teacup Yorkie and holds Boo out of the window of the moving car, and he's howling like an animal while holding the dog out of the window.
I hate this woman
and
so much.
Everyone in the car, I'll never forget
Can't
it.
even explain it.
Everyone just froze. No one did anything. And I too was like
She's acting
torn
so
as to
fucking
what I
hard
should
right now.
do, because I didn't want to do anything to cause him to react, drop the dog. It was just this eerie moment where he's howling and holding this animal outside of the car window.
Howling.
And more than that weird memory is more than that weird memory, I have a memory of everyone just kind of not really reacting to him. Like no one really kind of did anything. I eventually kind of pulled his arms gently back into the vehicle and kind of got the dog back on the seat.
One
and
thing that people
we
do a
continued
lot
driving, but
when they're
no
like-
one
When they're kind of
reacted.
fabricating or lying, is
just
they
kind of
over-explain
avoided
things. They over-explain
dealing
details
with it.
that
We
don't
get to
matter.
the place, the house where he was
Even if
filming
what she
this
said
thing
is
that he
true,
was
she's
late
saying
for,
every
I
little
suppose,
minute
for the
detail that
day.
has nothing to do with
And
the point of anything.
We walk in,
And it's just making her
meanwhile,
sound
I've been
stupid.
bombarded by text messages and calls and conversations with everyone seemingly so stressed about.
Objection, hearsay.
All right.
Just don't tell us what somebody else said, just what you observed.
I understood everyone was stressed. They seemed stressed to me about the tardiness. Where is he? Let's get him there, so we get him there. And no one reacts when we get in. I mean, we walk into this house where everyone was waiting for him, and everyone smiles and says, hey, boss.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's, Michelle, can we pull up 167A? I think, is B the one that's in? 167B is already in, right? Oh, it's A. Okay, then go ahead and pull up A. Does Your Honor show that one to be in 167A? Defendants, I'm sorry.
Well, this might be your 167A, but it's in evidence as a plaintiff's number. I'm not sure which plaintiff's number it is. I don't need it in twice, so.
I would agree. Do we?
Your Honor, I don't think it's this version of the photograph that's been admitted, so
It's a different version,
a
same
different-
photograph, but a little different, is that what we're?
It's not the same photograph.
Okay, not the same
right, well
photograph,
then-
then we'll go with it. Then what
Okay.
what number is it?
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
Please tell the jury what it is.
It's a picture I took of my breakfast table that morning.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 167A.
167A, any objection?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
He said objection here. Said he was on the witness once. Jeez. I mean, you got to do what you got to do as a lawyer. I get it, but you know, and people on the outside will argue back and forth, like, you know, he should have objected more, should have objected less. There's all this like science, or not maybe not science, but like theory and
7A
stuff behind it.
is an evidence.
And
You can publish.
I've watched like a lot of lawyers talk about this.
May
At the
we
end of the
publish
day,
that?
it,
Thank you, Your Honor.
it kind of feels like you have to read the courtroom. You have to be there to understand really like
Okay. And
how the judge is
you
acting,
said
how the
that
whole
you
thing
took
is
this
going.
that
And I don't know.
morning? Is that
Those things
correct?
don't really get me as much, I
Could you
guess.
tell the jury what the box is that has the property with the skull bones, property of JD?
That's Johnny's drug box. I've seen it used for pills, but at the time it was bags of Coke, like dime bags of Coke.
Okay. And what are these white lines on the table to the left of that box?
That is cocaine.
Okay.
Got a little straw for it and everything.
And do you know what is in these two glasses that have kind of a gold colored liquor?
Like beer.
Yes, they're different, actually. It's confusing. They're different, different liquids. The one in the back in the larger glass is, I believe at the time I was doing these tabs, or Barocca, that's what they're called. They're little tablets. And anyway, I remember at the time.
Just say what's in the fucking
that's
glasses,
what I was
lady.
putting in my water because I had just come back from France.
Shut the
where
fuck
they
up.
sell
She
them.
asked you a
And then
question.
The brown liquid in the shot glass is Johnny's liquor. I don't know what it's called, but we
Where's
kept
the
it in the
shot
freezer. At the time, it was at that time, March 2013, I hadn't, I still didn't have the, hard line. I won't even keep that, in
she
my
said hard
freezer
line.
sort of attitude or posture with him. I wasn't that bold at the time, I didn't like it, but I didn't have that strength. I kind of, at that time, I think was doing things like trying to pour it out when I could.
So what is
Biroca?
the bag, the
Biroca?
brown bag on the left side? What is that?
That's a DOP kit. It's
Take note of her travel mug.
his prescriptions and cigarette, tobacco.
What is that? What is
weed,
that? What
things
is it? Is it
like that?
Is it like some Illuminati
And then
shit?
Above it, there appears to be a CD of some sort.
What is it?
DVD, something. Do you recognize that?
Yes, it's the single. I believe is what it's called. The single he was making at the time. I think that's the song that they were filming a video for. If I'm correct.
Johnny should make a song after this called "Fuck Amber
All
Heard."
right. Now,
Fuck
did you
Amber
end
Heard,
up
bitch,
sending
give me
a
my
copy
money. I
of
said,
this
"Fuck
picture
Amber Heard, bitch, give
to
me
Rocky
my
Pennington
money."
that day?
That's what I would make a song about.
I did. I sent it to my best friend at the time, and it was like, look at my morning.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay, you can't say what you said, but you sent it to your friend, correct?
I
Let's
sent
go
it
to
to my friend.
167, please. And is that the email in which you sent this picture to Rocky Pennington on 3/22?
Yes.
2013?
Oh,
Your Honor,
she
I'd like
used
to move
it
the admission of
in a video.
the picture with the redaction of
Covering the camera.
message on it.
She
With
used
the
it to cover the camera in a
top
video of Johnny losing his shit
with
over something that
identifier
happened.
redactions, and we take out the rest of it.
She didn't touch her side clip.
Oh, all right. Any objection?
No objection.
Oh, she covered the
Alright, so
camera so the
actions,
camera couldn't see what was
167,
happening, and just
evidence with
audio
redactions.
made it sound bad. Got it. This just sounds like a fucked relationship overall. Like, Johnny seems like he's a little, crazy in his own right, right? Like, he's got some shit, and then she just like flips out over everything about it, and like they just don't belong together. That's what it
maybe
seems like. It's just a very
publish, please?
toxic relationship all in all, and it just what sucks is that he's lost work over
All right,
this.
and
Like
is
people.
this the text
Oh,
message,
Johnny
the email
couldn't
that
see
you
the
sent to
camera. Got
Rocky
it.
with this picture?
Yes.
I don't know. It just seems like a fucked relationship, and Johnny's the only one that's
Now I'm
taken
going
the fall
to-
and lost everything over it
Take you to,
because of her lies and shit.
let's go to
But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like they're both a little fucking nutty in
Hicksville.
their own way, and she's just kind of a fucking demon. A
Let's tell the jury
succubus.
about Hicksville, May 2013. Can you tell the jury what transpired at Hicksville?
It is
Johnny seems like a really cool guy to be friends with. Like, don't get me
It's a-
wrong. Like, no cap though. Like,
fancy
like he
trailer
seems like
park.
he'd be a lot like a fun guy to
Hotel
like
in the middle of
tell
nowhere.
you some good stories. You know,
Set up with these little trailers, and
got some good
we
stories
had
to tell.
made, a plan to go there with friends, and we were going to do, like laughy, as we said, laughy drugs, like mushrooms, eat mushrooms, sit by a campfire.
She knows way too much of this lingo to be like
There's
playing
really
dumb.
not a whole lot else.
She been
to
doing
do
all this same
out
shit, if
there.
not
It's
more.
like a getaway. We had made this plan, and it was.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny
going
seems like
fine.
he's a
It
little
was like
fucked up, but he seems
kind of
genuine. Like
party
he's
out in the
not like
desert,
fake about it. Like he is who
with
he
a few
is,
friends
right?
and
He is him and all his
campfire
flaws.
and music, and
you know,
I don't know who
And that's
somebody
fine,
brought
right? There's nothing wrong with
MDMA. It was being passed around, and
We all
somebody
have our
who
issues.
took it
she's just
kind of
exploited him.
was starting to feel
tried
the
to destroy his
effects
life.
of it, I guess is the best way to describe. She kind of reacted in this
Rednecked.
way where when the MDMA hit her, she kind of, we were sitting around a campfire, all of us, and she kind of just leaned into me and put her, head on my shoulder and kind of grabbed my arm. I took it, to be the effects of the drug. And I think I had eaten a mushroom cap, but
Just one?
was
Yeah, right.
not feeling anything at the time. I don't remember feeling anything.
Yeah, okay.
Because the
Or
night
it's
just
okay.
kind of changed pretty dramatically before I really felt anything of the effects of that. But that was the
So I'm saying,
environment
she talks
we were in.
so much. She says way more while still saying nothing,
And as soon
clear
as she
sign that
kind of
she's just
did this thing where she leaned into me,
making it all. Just acting
Johnny
right now. It's just a farce.
gets really activated. He gets really upset, and he starts. Well, at first she thought he was kidding too. She thought he was kind of making a joke. I think we all did. Everyone kind of responded at first, that like it was a joke. But he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And she kind of giggled and kind of leaned into me more, and I knew in my body just instantly that it wasn't a joke. But she didn't. So she's kind of still attached to my arm when he says it again to her louder. He says, "Hey man, you think you're touching my fucking girl? You think you're touching my fucking girl? That's my fucking girl." And he gets louder and louder. And she kind of did this thing half.
Yeah, because you've
understanding
already
what was
probably
going on.
cheated
I
on
think
him
she
with
kind of
other
started to
women.
cry at this point, but
Like,
she kind of
yeah.
threw up her hands, and Johnny grabbed her
This
wrist.
woman has literally psychologically
and kind of
broken this
twisted
man
it.
down.
And pulled her into him and said,
And
"Do you know how many
yes,
pounds of
that's
pressure
rough.
it takes to break a human wrist?" Huh? And he kind of
I don't know if the
held
jury
her,
will
and
believe
she
anything she's
just,
saying.
She just looked.
I don't think it matters really, because this again
And,
is all kind of hearsay, right?
she's
There's no
crying
proof of any
and
of this. It's
she's-
just her
it was
testimony. It's
just
it's her word of
denying,
mouth testimony. That's all.
understanding
it really
what
is.
was going on.
which is fine
I
because
stepped
she's a
in.
witness, so she can say
I
what she thinks.
Kind of take Johnny's
but at the end of the day, it's
arm
just her
around
word.
him,
Like
take Johnny's
there's no
hand and
evidence
kind of-
for any of this,
We start
and it's about
communicating. I
did
don't
he
remember
lose
if
money
he
because of the
immediately
shit that
was
she made up.
accusing me, or if it was
I think it's gonna
sometime
go his
after.
way.
I wish I
We'll
remembered,
see,
but
though.
we agreed that we'd go and talk about it in the trailer.
Like the point is, like everything she's
So
saying
we
right now
walked
to
to
me
the trailer,
doesn't matter.
And when
As far
we're
as this
in
case
the
goes.
trailer, Johnny, by the time we get into the trailer, Johnny tells me that I
Right.
had been instigating.
There's no way
the-
she's acting like this
like,
right now
asking
they're alone.
for this, and that I had invited it, and that I hadn't been honest with him about my relationship with this woman. And I didn't really know her that well. I mean, I actually don't know her at all, but I had met her, and I remember in the trailer, he's accusing me
They
of
bump
lying
clips.
about it, and that I had something with her. I'm trying to diffuse that. I'm trying to calm him down, and he just turned all that. It seemed like he turned all that rage onto the trailer itself, and he just started smashing things. He picked up something on the table and threw it right into the glass cabinet.
Yeah, I don't know her very well. We
He
just
hit
scissored.
with his hand, a wall sconce.
And then she gave me a painting, and I put it in
cleared
my house.
the tabletop on the
Put-
little fold
I
down.
put her artwork on my wall because she's an artist.
Like kitchen, dining room area in this trailer. I mean, it's a trailer, so there's only so much you can do. And he's screaming at me, screaming at me.
Everything she says just doesn't matter.
And I eventually go back into the bedroom area. He comes into the bedroom area. We had what I can only describe as it sounded like nonsense from him. It wasn't making sense. And I realized that he's just probably really high. Because it wasn't making sense anymore. It wasn't like a direct accusation. He wasn't hearing me when I was saying I wasn't involved, wasn't cheating on him. I wasn't secretly trying to engage this woman in some sort of sexual affair. And then it became clear to me he was like looking for something. He cleared things off the bed. I went into the bathroom.
Yeah, again, I don't know. Like she
as
could
I
be
come out,
exaggerating. She could be saying a lot of things, but there's no evidence for
he
any of
asked
it.
me where it is.
It's just a lot of her
how long
talking
I've been
right now.
hiding it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, you know what I'm fucking talking about. You know what I'm fucking talking about. Be honest with me. Where are you hiding it? And he kind of like makes to look into the bathroom. And I gestured to the bathroom,
Oh, she took
which
his
is
Coke?
to my right. I kind of like gestured to him and I said, like, what am I hiding and where am I going to hide it?
Yeah, right.
And we're standing in this little hallway area outside of the bathroom, and he starts, what feels like patting me down or saying he's patting me down. I can't recall, but he ripped my dress, the strap top part of my dress. I had just dyed this thing myself pink, and it's just one of those things. I was like, I just finished that dress. And he's like grabbing my breasts, he's touching my thighs, he rips my underwear off, and then he proceeds to do a cavity search. He said he was looking for his drugs, his cocaine, his coke. I was wondering how somebody who didn't do cocaine and was against it, that was in and of itself causing problems in our relationship. How could I hide? Why would I hide his drugs from, like he was insinuating that I was doing it or something? It made no sense. And he was telling me we're gonna conduct a cavity search, shall we? Like, just shoved his fingers inside me. And I just stood there staring at the stupid light. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there. While he did that, he twisted his fingers around. I don't
know if this is true or not.
I didn't say
But-
stop or anything.
She doesn't seem like to. Like she seemed like. I feel like somebody who, if that actually happened, to be more upset. I don't know. Her demeanor doesn't fit.
So the next morning,
But who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not an expert in this.
what transpired?
Shit, I didn't need to do
I
that.
remember thinking that
Go there.
Johnny would change his mind. And it would be, I thought it would end differently. I kind of froze. I don't know how we went to bed that night. I don't know how I went to bed. I don't know how I slept. I don't know how we woke up. I don't remember having a conversation with him the next day. I don't remember talking to him about it or confronting him about it. I remember wanting it to be okay. I remember just wanting whatever fucking weird trip, whatever trip that was to end, you know, just to be over and for it to just go back to normal. And I remember my friends were out by the pool. Like there was a pool in the center of the trailer park, and I remember
The trailer park
putting
had
on
a pool? Ooh, that's
you
a
know,
fancy
just
trailer
putting
park.
on my face and going back into this like crap, you know, and I remember seeing my friends by the pool thinking they were just having a great time, and no one knew what was, you know, I felt so lonely. Like no one knows everyone was just having a good time, you know, like normal stuff. So I just smiled and made a joke about how trashed the trailer got, and we had to get the manager, who started off furious that Johnny had wrecked the thing. And then he had this like black mesh not tank top, it was like a meshy kind of shirt on. And I remember he came into the trailer and looked around and was like, whoa, what happened here? Whoa. And Johnny had an exchange with him.
It depends
And I
on the
remember
trailer park.
watching
Like,
this
if it's a
man be so
movie
shocked.
set, it might be more secluded, like with less.
It was just a kind of a
you know.
surreal experience, and you know, it just went away. You know, that just got fixed. We walked out of the trailer at some point. My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet and went on with our
Dog stepped on a bee.
you know, vacation. We actually went to another location after that, and then eventually went home and went about our life.
I'm going to ask you to take a look. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 176?
I hate end games.
The next bill is in May of 2013.
There we go.
Did there come a time that you wrote an email?
Objection, leading, and hearsay, Your Honor. May we approach?
All right.
Yeah, tell her what's up. I don't know. I wonder why they mute it during this. How's Texas? Texas is good. Texas is hot as freaking balls, though, bro. Texas is hot. Maybe like 100 degrees this week. It's not even summer yet. You know? Texas is hot. Lot of weird bugs where I'm at. I'm noticing that. I'm by a lake. There's a lot of goofy bugs. A lot of spiders around here, which I'm not a fan of. But hey, Texas otherwise is pretty cool. A lot of gun stores. A lot of pro gun people around here, which is nice.
In June 2013, how were you feeling about your relationship with Mr. Depp?
May we have the exhibit taken away
Okay,
from...
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, big ass mosquitoes too. Everything's bigger in Texas.
By June,
Even the women
I was
and the mosquitoes.
so torn. I was so in love with this person. Because when it
Did
was
I get
good,
a
it
Don't
was
Mess with Texas
so
t-shirt? I did
good.
not yet. No.
You've never felt love like that. At least that's how it felt.
Hey, what'd she say? What'd she say? What did she
So
say?
much. I was so in love with this person. So torn. I was so in love with this person. Because when it was good, it was so good. You've never felt love like that. At least that's how it felt.
She was
So
talking about
much.
her scissoring, but
I felt like he recognized me and I recognized him, and there was just something there that was the love of my life.
like, didn't she try to get the case dropped? Right? Wasn't that like yesterday or today or something?
And he was.
The judge said
He
no.
was. But he was also this other thing. He was also this other thing. And that other thing was awful. Awful.
Prove it. That's the thing.
that
She has
would
no proof of it,
come
but there's plenty
out
of
and
proof that she is the awful person. That's what's crazy.
take over, and it was. You
Like, he
couldn't
might have a
see
bad
the
side to
Johnny
him,
I loved.
But as far as the
Underneath it, it
case
was this
goes,
other
there's
thing.
no evidence for it, and she has ruined this man's
And no
career.
one told him. No one was honest with him.
And there's
no one,
evidence to show that she's been abusive
You know,
as
he'd
fuck.
pass out in his own vomit. He'd lose control of his body. His,
That has
you
nothing,
know,
by the
he'd
way.
lose control, and everyone
That's his own
cleaned up
problem.
after him. I cleaned up after him. I mean,
didn't
this
have
man
to.
lost control of his bowels, and I cleaned up after him. His security cleaned up after him, changed his pants in front of me.
He's trying so hard not to laugh because she's shit in his bed. Dude, she's talking
know,
about
and then
losing her
he'd
bowels, and she's
walk
shit in his
around
bed.
saying
And he's trying so hard not
He
to
didn't
lose
have
her
a
right now.
problem. Until he did.
Bro,
Until he couldn't support it anymore, and he'd get clean, and he'd get sober, and then he was this thing again.
no way.
This thing that made me feel so loved, that made me feel like
He's laughing.
like
Oh my god, I can't. I can't,
my
Chad.
soulmate. As cheesy as that sounds, I just felt like
He's
knew. And I recognized something in him, either some part of my makeup and my background or something that I just got it. And I loved him and understood him. It just got so scary, the other part of him. And in June, I wanted...
Right, that's the point. It's
wanted
all
to
just
leave
her saying these things about him. There's no proof, there's no evidence, nobody else
wanted
is saying
to-
it. Sure, I'm sure
didn't
Johnny
wanna
has
leave
like
him.
had a drug problem, alcohol problem.
wanted
He's
to want
probably
to leave
passed
him. I
out
wanted
and
him to
puked
get
in his
better.
whatever.
And
It's
he
probably happened.
expressed
He's
to me
probably
so
got his
many
own
times
issues,
when
right?
he was in that
But
period of getting clean and sober.
that's
he would
his.
tell me,
He's
"You
only
saved
abusing
my
himself
life.
in those situations.
Baby girl, you saved my life." Everyone else was saying that to me, and I believed it.
But she's physically abused him. She's
You
physically.
know, if everyone
demonized.
else
She's
was
gotten
saying it,
him,
he was saying it. I
like,
thought,
she's
just
cost
like
him
his other
plenty of
friends who
acting
had gotten
jobs.
clean and sober and stayed that way, his older friends, these rock stars that
proof of
he
all that.
hung out with
That's what
that
the
had
case is
like
about.
gotten clean and sober and they had 20, 30 years.
All this
something,
is just
you
for
know.
her saving
I
face right
thought,
now. Just trying to save face.
and Johnny told me he would be that person, that he was going to be that person, and I believed it.
She's gonna
I
have to
had
pay him a
so
fuck ton
much-
of money,
I
but
looked
she's
at
just
that
trying to look
man-
good in the public eye right now,
Twice my age, you know, I was
so that she can hopefully get an acting job after
25,
this.
looking at this man twice my age, and I saw hope and like promise. I had so much hope. You know, the whole thing. Kids and growing old together, sort of hope. If it was just for this one thing that he could do, which would save his life, which would be to get clean and sober. And I believed it. And I wrote this letter to myself, among many letters to myself.
Oh yeah, Cross
Objection
is
to
gonna
the
be
song.
lit, dude. Cross is gonna be
All she
lit.
did was refer to that she wrote it. She isn't saying what she said.
I'll rule for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I wrote that letter because I thought it would be read to him. I could read it to him. I could say it to him in intervention, you know, in help. And he would later thank me for,
Damn it, let me try
as he
again.
did, as he used to thank me all the time for saving his life.
Did there come a time later in June that you finally met Johnny's kids?
I'm sorry.
Why is that such a hard question? Yes. No.
Yeah,
Maybe so.
I finally met them in the summer of 2013. I had been with Johnny for over a year, maybe like a year and a half at this point, is my best guess. And I was dying to meet them, you know, dying to get to know these kids. I felt like I knew them already. I had his
She bugs the
daughters,
shit out of
and Jack's, both of his kids' art on my fridge, and I had never even met them. You know, Johnny had brought them over one day, and kindly given them to me, and I had them up on my fridge because I felt like I knew them, just how much he talked about them. And I finally got to meet them at the Lone Ranger premiere at Disneyland.
It's funny, 'cause, like, Johnny's just passing notes back
summer
and forth with his
2013.
lawyer, just writing notes, passing them back and forth.
So then I'm going to jump to, and it's not much of a jump, to June 26, 2013. There was a plane ride to Russia with Johnny. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that particular event.
Well, that was the first and last time I ever decided it would be a decent idea to do drugs with Johnny. I did MDMA with him on the plane, which was as stupid as it may sound. I just had never, I was very against, obviously the cocaine had been a problem. I was very much against him using cocaine. I was against the drinking, supportive of the sobriety, but I'm 26 maybe, ish. And I wanted, I had never heard of anyone making MDMA like what I had done MDMA before. I thought it's a lovey drug. It's a, it's like a kind of, I never knew anyone to get violent on it. And, I thought, well, this is a relatively contained environment. Maybe this will be different. Maybe I can be a good cop and be part of the, I don't have to be.
What the hell is she talking about
the
right now?
lesbian
I'm so confused.
counselor all the time, as you would say.
But she's a
I can
lesbian
maybe be
counselor?
the fun girlfriend.
The lesbian
And
counselor?
I learned the hard way that was not happening.
That's funny.
So what happened?
Well, we took MDMA. I took a capsule. It's like a powder in a capsule. I took a capsule, and Johnny took several. I didn't count, but it's
She
very
has no
different
idea.
when you see someone take one versus a handful of something. But
She
nothing
has no
seemed
idea.
to set any alarm bells off, and things were going fine until the flight attendant got involved. The flight attendant came by, was engaging with us. I don't think that they're really. It felt like it was before the effects of the drug took over. It was relatively quick, soon after we first took our dose, if you can say. And the flight attendant, Johnny offered her some. She of course said no. And then after some back and forth between them, Johnny convinced her that it would be fine. So she acquiesced and took MDMA with us. And within, a few minutes go by, and the same thing happened that happened on the mushrooms at Hicksville with the woman, Kelly Sue, who I've told you about. Flight attendant got friendly with me, but just friendly,
Yeah.
just like
She,
MDMA
her
friendly.
eyes got
was
dried up and
kind of on
real
the woman.
quick,
He's
you
an
know?
answer. She was naturally, I think, more comfortable with me physically.
now she's
She
trying
kinda
to
leaned into me
she's trying to weave her web of a story. Like, she's in her mind, like, how can I weave this fucking spider web of a story now?
and kind of sat on the arm of the chair I was sitting in. I mean, after all, she's on drugs, and Johnny grabs her hand and tells her not to touch me, and she kind of reacts in a way like she's defending herself and was trying to clarify. And he grabbed her by the wrist and slammed it down on the table and told her he could break her wrist. And I remember
it's that
thinking, I've
story
heard this
again.
before. And that was a pattern that would repeat itself a few times. These things would happen in these kind of cycles where there'd be a certain element that would get filtered for a while, whether it's an accusation or a gesture, and that would be the thing that he looped on. I called it loops. And he grabs her wrist and he tells her he could break her wrist. She cries instantly, denies it, is so apologetic. Eventually he lets go. She goes to the front of the plane where the flight attendant, normally hangs out and the door's closed, and I don't see her much of that whole flight. We land in Russia, and I don't really remember, I don't recall any violence on the plane between Johnny and I, but I remember feeling this tension because I was wondering when it was gonna aim at me. Because he had this particular thing about, well, at the time I understood he had a particular thing, a sensitivity about me and women, because I had a female partner.
Because you had an affair,
I
maybe?
was feeling nervous,
Or you cheated on?
anxious, and I remember we had a very quiet ride, at least I didn't say anything, to the ride to the hotel. And almost as soon as we get into the hotel room, Johnny's accusing me of effectively having engaged that, caused that. I, of course, deny it, point out what I thought was obvious, that, like we'd given her drugs, wasn't an affair, wasn't, and I'm trying to argue and defend myself at the same time. And at one point, Johnny just shoves me, just shoves me hard. And I fall back onto this glass table. I catch myself on the table. I don't know how some furniture got knocked around. There was I'm trying to stand up for myself. I'm trying to stand up, literally. I'm not, at this point, I don't even try to hit back or try to run. I'm in this hotel room trying to do my best to fight mostly the verbal accusations, but also I try to stay on my feet, At some point, Johnny whacks me in the face, and I don't remember feeling pain or awareness of my nose or anything. I don't remember thinking that. I remember kind of crying and feeling, I went into the bathroom and I wanted him to have I just remember wanting him to realize what had happened. I wanted him to kind of snap out of it. I wanted him to care. I wanted him to realize what was going on, because a big part of this, I felt like he wasn't aware. There was this sense that he didn't know what was going on. Again, I don't know how much of the drugs or alcohol is a part of this, but I remember crying. I came out at some point because I don't hear him in that room. I remember we had been arguing in the main room, but I went out to the hallway, which is where I presume he walked out, and his bodyguard, Jerry Judge, was in the hall. And I don't recall seeing Johnny in the hallway, but I remember seeing Jerry Judge, who gestured to my nose.
Objection, hearsay.
She's just saying gesture. He hasn't said anything yet.
All right, gesture's fine. I'll overrule the objection.
He gestures to my nose and holds out his handkerchief, like a cloth handkerchief. And I instantly felt really embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I don't know how else to describe it. I just felt like just really embarrassing. And I went inside the room.
What, if any, injury did you have?
I had a little blood coming out of my nose. I didn't know it. I didn't feel it at the time until Jerry gave me Jerry
should have won that.
Let me know.
Okay.
And I went inside the hotel room, and
the only reason this whole story isn't hearsay is because she's the one saying it on the stand.
I remember
It's just a story.
I remember just wanting Johnny to say sorry. I wanted him to realize it. It's so stupid, but like the emotional part, I just wanted him to acknowledge that.
No, she's never been angry before.
This was
see no evidence of
that
that at all.
He could hurt me, and I wanted it to be okay. I didn't want him to think I was interested in this flight attendant. I didn't want him to think that I would capable of cheating on him. I was in love with him. I wanted, I just wanted things to be okay.
she probably had cheated on him a few
Let's
times,
take
and that's
you
why
to
he
July
thinks that.
9,
That's what happens. Like, I've been in that kind of
2013.
relationship
There come a
before.
time
You get
that
cheated on, and then
went
you
for
just, like,
a
that's all you
ride
can think
on-
about is,
went
are they
to
going to
the
do it again,
Bahamas and
right?
went on a ride
And it just ruins
with
the
a
whole
yacht
fucking
with
relationship,
Johnny
and that's
and
what I'm
his
saying.
kids.
Like, their relationship has
Well,
just
it's
been
less like
shit.
a-
Like, they should have
We
they should
flew
have
out
never
to the
been together
Bahamas to
for
his
all
island.
these years because he's
He
constantly
was
thinking
selling
she's
the
disloyal,
yacht
whether or
to
not she
J.K.
is,
Rowling,
and then
he
she
wanted
just
to
gets
kind of
angry
have a
and violent because of
goodbye
it. That's probably how it
trip
is.
on the yacht, so it was stopped
And
off the
then
island.
she ruined his
and
career
I went with him
because she didn't get what she wanted.
and his kids,
So,
who
it's just
I
rough, man.
had quickly developed a
Bad
bond
situation
with and
overall
loved,
for both
and
people.
We brought a friend along.
She
with
seems
us,
like a
I
very
think, to
vindictive,
kind of
crazy woman.
help, and yeah.
Okay. Tell the jury what happened on that trip.
Johnny was
Bro, that
upset
pussy though gotta be
that he had to sell the
fire.
boat,
She's like, if he's still
and
fucking
he
with her
was,
after all that
off
shit,
the wagon again,
bro.
but he didn't want to tell his kids, so he
something's
was
up.
hiding it.
You know
from
what I'm
them.
saying? Something's up.
He was putting it in coffee cups and drinking, and the behavior just kind of like he was upset, he was emotional, and he just, you know, that's how he dealt with it. Just drink, but there's just no off button with Johnny. So he just kept drinking, and the behavior kept getting more obviously drunk. And Lily Rose, his daughter at the time, was young, just like maybe 14. And
I wonder
she
how long
started to
her lawyer's going to drag this out for,
get panicky.
because this has been going on for a
started
while
asking
now.
questions about his drinking.
Objection, hearsay.
Without saying what Lily Rose was
I
saying.
mean,
please
she's been
continue
on the stand for over an hour already.
So she was asking me questions about the drinking.
I think it's been like 2
and was
hours.
Very upset.
Sustain the objection.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't say what Lily Rose said.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you can tell gestures, you can tell, and you can say what you and Mr. Depp said, okay?
Sorry.
Yes, you
so
can't make up what somebody else said. You
She
can
was
only make
upset,
up what you said.
And Johnny kind of, we were with the kids, and he kind of threw himself off the boat in a half playful way, like a dead fish kind of way. I don't know how to describe it. Almost like a belly flop, but
It doesn't
we were
matter.
on a
She's
skip,
just
like
she's
a
bringing up
smaller
points that are
boat
completely irrelevant to try to
parked
understand, like
next
to
to
try
the
to
yacht,
sound
and
smart.
he's
She's trying to sound like,
jumping-
hey, I have a good
well, he jumped off the
recollection of what
front of it,
happened.
but
You can
kind of in
trust
a-
me because
a
I
face,
remember that he played like a
chest
dead
forward
fish when he
way,
jumped
like-
off the boat. I remember that, therefore
It
everything
looked
I'm
a
saying
little
is true. That's
scary,
like the
not
message she's trying to put out,
something
and
somebody
it's
would do
it's
if
it
they're
just
completely
sounds so
okay.
fake.
You know, it was started off all of us kind of taking turns jumping off the edge of the yacht into the water, and then he at one point kind of throws himself over, and it looked a little scary. The way his body fell into the water, and Lily Rose started to cry and expressed to me that she
Objection,
was
hearsay.
upset.
Sustained.
You can't say what she said. You can tell expressions or observations, but you can't say what Lily Rose said.
Put her in
Lily
contempt.
Rose is
No, I'm just playing.
crying, and then the crying becomes like a panic, like almost like a panic attack. Like rapid breathing, crying, lots of questions, and I'm holding her, kind of comforting her.
Oh my God, how fucking
and
funny
Johnny
would that
comes
be?
in, and within a few seconds, I realize that he.
They just bring out like
You
a
know,
fucking
kind of
above ground
shifted his
pool.
attention on me, and then he seemed very angry. He asked Lily Rose to leave.
I can't.
Lily Rose
Will you
leaves,
jump in this pool for me, Mr. Depp?
looks at me, leaves, crying, and Johnny, I don't remember the words he used, but starts accusing me of kind of like telling on him.
You snitch,
and
bitch.
calling him, a drunk in front of his kids. I hadn't done that. I was actually trying to protect Johnny. It didn't feel like my place at all to share that with his daughter or anyone at the time, other than adults who might help with it, but not his kids. So
Right.
I was trying to tell him I was just trying to comfort
Bro,
her.
she's a
I was
B-list
trying to
actor,
protect you.
and that's what I was saying. I'm like, you know what Johnny's thinking there? I'm like,
Basically was
oh, you're acting as
accusing
shit.
me of doing
you know?
this thing, and
Like, Johnny
of
doesn't need to
making
act on
them
stage
aware
'cause
of his that he was
There's no
drinking
need
again.
for it.
And
Put on
he slams
stage
me
on-
up against
on the stand?
the sidewall the bedroom of the we were in the bedroom.
She needs
this
to
whole
save
time,
face,
but
and that's
up
why she's
against
doing
the
it,
wall
but-
of the cabin, and slams me up by my neck, and holds me there for a second and tells me that he could fucking kill me, and that was an embarrassment. I was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment. This whole thing was a joke. It was all embarrassment. I made him feel sick. And I'll never forget. I'm very, very, very much in love with this whole family now. And he's saying I'm embarrassing to him. And that somehow stuck in me more than the. I
Probably said you're
fucking kill you.
embarrassing
It just
him.
sounded like hyperbole. It sounded like something he was just saying. But the names that he was calling me, well, kind of just pushing me up against the wall by my neck. You know, it hurt my feelings. It hurt.
Oh, man. See, just that voice.
When I communicated when I saw Lily Rose again, we get. I won't say what she told me, but the next thing we do is we call for a helicopter to come and take us off of the boat or off of the island. So we leave the boat, go to the landing of a part of the island, or maybe it was a different island we had to get to leave, and we take off. I'm holding Lily Rose in my. Literally holding her under my arm while she's crying, and we're lifting off. And Jack ended up not coming with us at the last minute. He stayed behind. And we were taking off, and I remember being really torn about leaving. I felt bad about leaving, even though that had happened. I still felt awful leaving. I felt awful leaving him. I also felt like I had done something wrong, he was mad at me. I wasn't sure, or what I had done, but I remember not being, I'm getting all these text messages from him calling me all these names, and it barely coherent, barely. And I'm holding his daughter crying.
And let me just stop you for a moment. Michelle, can you pull up Defendant's Exhibit 180?
I do believe that's already in there.
It is already into evidence, Your Honor, so if we may publish it to
fucked
the
up
jury.
here. I shouldn't have done that.
And Amber, I'm going to ask you to take a look at 180.
Got myself in a pickle, people.
And this is
I'll lose
text
all my
messages
pieces.
from Mr. Depp to you. Do you recall these?
Yes, I
There's
do.
everything here.
And are these the text messages?
Yes, that's what he was sending me while I was taking care of his daughter.
Gotta open up somehow. Not like that.
Your Honor, I'm about to go into another event. Should I keep going?
I mean, that's fine if you think this is a good point to
is
break for
probably-
the day.
I think it's probably good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and conclude for today. Again,
All right, they're done.
Anything about this case, do not do any outside research and don't discuss it with anybody, okay?
We'll get
Have a
crossed
good evening.
tomorrow.
We'll see you in the morning, okay? Thank you.
Who else did they talk to today? Was it the same lady as earlier? Those two people?
Sommelier training.
She did?
All right, she did all of these things, and you've made a determination that she is impaired with respect to her.
All right, let's see what this what Depp's attorneys have to say about or with this witness here.
Why don't we put that back up, plaintiff's 1247. Again, this is the caps 5. You didn't administer this until you already had Dr. Curry's scores, did you?
That's not correct.
No, you administered it after Dr. Curry made a disclosure, correct?
That's not correct.
You administered it after Dr. Curry had administered hers.
I learned that in late February when she submitted her report, but I had no way of knowing that in December of 2021.
And you didn't make any reference to this in your disclosures until after Dr. Curry made reference to hers, right?
I don't recall the date of the final disclosure or the fourth disclosure.
All right. Can we go to the next page? Let's go to the top of the page. We'll blow that up. Instructions start with standard administration and scoring of the CAPS 5 are essential for producing reliable and valid scores and diagnostic decisions. See that language?
I do.
All right. You don't contend it's standard not to fill out the frequency line.
I think if you're filling it on the right side of the box, I think that's perfectly fine.
All right. So you think it's standard administration to simply leave blanks that are already in the form?
I didn't leave blanks when I needed to find out the frequency of the symptoms.
All right, let's go down a little bit further. Let's go to administration. It says, number 2, read prompts verbatim, one at a time, and in the order presented, and then has a variety of exceptions. With respect to the childhood trauma notations you made in the margin of the CAPS 5, you didn't read the prompts verbatim, did you?
I read the first prompt. If there was a yes, then I would have made a decision, do I need to administer a whole nother CAPS?
Right. And you ultimately didn't do that. You just simply wrote in the margin of the last one.
Because she wasn't endorsing those symptoms.
Okay. You talked about endorsement of symptoms. Ultimately, what you're looking for with respect to PTSD is functional deficiencies. It's one of the things you look for, right?
Well, with any DSM diagnosis, you're looking for what are the functional impairments as a result of the symptoms that the individual is experiencing.
Okay. So, in fact, if you go to all the way to the end of the form, one of the things that we deal with is impairment in occupational functioning, right?
Correct.
All right. What's Ms. Hurd's occupation?
She's an actor.
All right. And she had just wrapped a major motion picture, correct?
That's correct.
So you didn't determine that she had an impairment in occupational function. She's still performing at literally the highest level of her profession, correct?
She had a number of PTSD symptoms while she was filming Aquaman 2.
Right.
That interfered with her ability to really organize a lot of resources for herself in order to go forward and film that.
I asked you whether she was performing at the highest level of her profession. Yes or no?
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that.
Okay. But did she report to you that
Johnny
that
Depp's
she
side, or
loves
is
to cook?
this Hurd's side?
She loves to cook, yes.
Yeah.
I
Hike,
think this is still Hurd's side, isn't it?
I don't recall hiking, but
read,
yep.
spend time with friends.
If she can, that has been significantly diminished as a result of her PTSD symptoms as a result of this case.
She just had a baby.
She did.
Right? Exercises every day.
For the most that I can tell, she does.
Yeah. Completed level 3 sommelier training.
She did.
All right.
That means she's a certified alcoholic.
She did all of these things
Just kidding.
And you've made a determination
Wine grader, wine
that
taster.
she is impaired.
Oh yeah,
with
dude.
respect
Get some
to
sleep,
her
Mom. You have a
occupational
good night.
function.
We'll catch you later.
I made a
Thanks for stopping
determination
by.
that the symptoms interfere with her functioning. She does these things, but it's not like the symptoms aren't there. She has to continue to work even though she has a panic attack, even though she has an intrusive recollection of the trauma, even though she's having heart palpitations and sweaty palms when something comes into her mind. It does not stop her from doing what she needs to do, but it does interfere.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you about another test that you administered, and that one's called the PAI. Do you know that one?
Yes, I do.
That's the personality assessment inventory.
That's correct.
With Ms. Heard, around the circumstances that gave rise to the TRO?
With, on May 21st?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did Ms. Heard ever tell you that James Franco spent the night with her at the ECB between May 21 and May 27?
Oh shit.
I recall, I mean, again, it would be helpful to have my notes so I can tell you exactly what, but I
Franco.
do recall that she
Oh,
did see
shit.
him at some point. I do not know if he spent the night.
Do you know if Elon Musk spent the night during that period?
Oh shit. Oh, let's get Elon on the stand. Please. It'd be the most famous case of all time. Fucking Elon's up there like, yes, I did sleep with Miss Heard. And I'm going to buy Disney next. And Johnny, you can have your job back. Oh yeah, I talk like a South African. I can't do it very well. Alright, next.
Testify that Johnny Depp was not abused. Can you?
I can testify that he had physical acts of violence perpetrated on him as well as psychological aggressive acts perpetrated upon him.
No further questions.
No further questions. Gotta end on a banger, baby. Let's go. James Franco, Elon Musk. Did she abuse him? Yup. No more questions. All right, I think this is all I need to
Dr.
see for
Hughes.
today. I'm going to be jumping off here. Maybe I'll do some more coverage of this tomorrow. We'll see. But thanks for guys for watching. Hope you guys are having a good one. We'll catch you later. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers. See ya.